close to 50%. Probably I bought homes, besides that, for them 2 homes. And they came to me and said, how in the hell am I going to live the rest of my life? We only have $60 million. I said, you just have to budget. The next day they fired me. And we haven't had a good relationship since.
Okay, so let's go back to one more interesting success, and then I want to read something from Warren Buffett, and I want to hear what you have to say about that. But I remember this stock. It was in the 80s, was it? Mohawk Data Systems?
Oh,
and
yeah, they called me the Mohawk Data guy. Because
did you have a Mohawk?
in 1967 or 8, when we were running around looking at companies, my brother flew up to Utica, New York to visit a new company called Mohawk Data. And he took the research director of one of the major companies and a professor from Case Western Reserve and a president of another company. And they visited Mohawk Data and they spent a couple hours. At the end of the second or third hour, the president opened his desk drawer and there were, I don't know how many checks, hundreds of checks in there. He said, these are orders that we have to fill. We've just completed our 5th machine, but we have enough orders for the next 2 years. So the stock was $5. The company was helped found by a friend of mine too. But we bought the stock at 5 in about 67 or 8. In 1969, when the market was breaking, we sold that stock at 185.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's another stock I didn't tell you about. I saw on the list that Sam Wiley was supposed to be here. Is he here? I didn't see him walk in.
No, he had RSVP'd, but Sam Wiley.
I'll tell you a story about Sam, one of the great investors, one of the really great people on Wall Street. 1969, when we were visiting companies, we went to Dallas and we bought some university computing stock. And we visited companies of recognition equipment. We had a whole list of companies we were visiting. And at the end of the day, we went up to see Sam. His whole office was about 1/3 of his office, his brother's, and the reception was probably 1/3 the size of this room. And we liked what he was doing with his software. And he has some other companies. Well, we bought that stock at 5 and also sold that in the high, well, I would say about 170 to 180. Less than 2 years.
What was the name of that company at that time?
University Computing was one of them.
University Computing.
And then he had restaurants and a software company. Sam did well in everything that they ever invested in. Every company, you knew what he was doing and you could believe him. And that's one of the keys in investing. Each one of you can talk to people with the computer, go to meetings, and you can believe or not believe the people, but you can believe a lot of them, and they tell the truth. And you have to make a decision.
Okay, let me read you this quote from Warren Buffett, and then I'd like to hear your comments on that, and then we'll open up to Q&A. How's that? In May 1984, Warren Buffett laid out everything you need to know about investing. It was his philosophy. In a speech at Columbia Business School, Buffett introduced what he called the super investors of Graham and Doddsville. Buffett writes, the common intellectual theme of the investors from Graham and Doddsville is this. They search for discrepancies between the value of a business and the price of small pieces of that business in that market. And he said that's pretty much it. in wrapping up, Buffett basically doesn't think about buying a stock, he thinks about buying a business.
Each one of you, when you buy a stock, you're part of that business. You own part of it. Not that you can make decisions, but you own it. And they're working for you. I can add a couple more things to what Buffett said. We had that philosophy starting about 1970, when we started, a little before 1970, we started meeting on Wall Street with them. We added, we have to know management, we have to know goals, and we have to be able to believe them. I can tell you another story. There was a man by the name of Bernie Ebbers, and he was merging companies into the telephone industry. And we went to the meeting when he did his last merger. And he was up there talking, and he said, as a result of this merger, I'm going to be able to save $2 billion in costs. So we walked out of the meeting, one of my partners in the hedge fund that I owned at that time, and we met with the analyst who covered the company and who worked on the deal. And he said, that damn guy, what the hell is he talking about? And we had a pretty nice position. Took us 30 seconds to sell every share of stock, and he went to jail eventually, and the company went out of business.
He's still in jail.
And he had 25 years. He had a nice personality, but you couldn't believe a word he said.
All right, well, let's open it up. Does anybody have any questions for Aaron Fleck? And when you ask your question, make it sure it's nice and loud for everybody. I've got a mic here I can hand out. David Grimes.
Aaron, please tell us a little bit about your relationship with my ex-next-door neighbor, Mike Freese.
Well, Mike is one of the best managers of a company.
This is Mike Freese,
Mike Freese
F-R-I-E-S.
in the country.
And what does he do?
He works with John Malone, and he's the CEO of 2 companies now, I believe, maybe a third. The CEO of Liberty Global and of a company called Lilco, which is a cable company for Chile, Puerto Rico, and I almost bet about another several companies in South America and acquisitions. But Liberty Global was spun off from TCI in about 2003. You got 1 share of Liberty Global for every 20 shares of TCI. A friend of mine gave 200 shares, got 200 shares of the new Liberty Global. I think the spinoff, I think the first spinoff he got 200 shares. No, I'm sorry. 200,000 shares of Liberty Global. He now has 1 million shares of Liberty Global, which is only selling for, it did sell for as high as 58, but the sell-off is about 44 today. It's one of our holdings, and I hope my kids will keep it for years.
You know what's interesting about this whole thing with Liberty Global and Mike Freese, thanks for bringing him up, David, and also John Malone, is that they're in the cable business. And everybody, you know, the general consensus is that cable business is going out of business. And yet he continues to add and grow and believes in cable more than anybody. What's going on here?
John Malone said the biggest mistake he ever made was to sell TCI to AT&T. And Leo Hendry was president. He happened to be a client of mine too. That I can tell you a story now because it's not insider trading.
Nice and loud, please.
One day at night, I get a call from Leo. Aaron, I'm resigning tomorrow from the AT&T cable company. That's all I had to hear. We had a fair position for him too, and we sold every share at 55, 2003. I don't know where AT&T is now, 31. It's never, ever gotten in the 50s.
Yeah, but it pays a high dividend.
That's another thing. Dividends could kill you, and the other thing that could kill people, the most important thing that I could give you today is borrowing money against your stocks. Margin, as one of the officials at Lehman told me 25 years ago, margin has killed more people than Hitler. And when markets go down, as they did recently, if you're on margin, you can be wiped out and there's nothing you can do.
What about options?
Except putting up more money.
What about options?
Well, there's certain type of options that are good or bad. I did some options where, let's see, probably around 2000, for one special person